It's Dr. Drew, Midday Live with Lauren Saban.
It is Midday Live. Let's get into it here at 800-222-5222. We're going to be, in just moments, speaking to former State Attorney General Kendall Coffey regarding why the Manafort and Cohen convictions are historic, or historic turning points. And there is a lot to sort of drill in here. And I, again, the piece that I want you all callers to help me with is how we can be looking at the same phenomenon and have such drastically different opinions about what we're looking at. I think that's the bottom line. And so I'm looking for my legal colleagues to help me understand from their perspective sort of the wisdom of this, from the standpoint of experience. How can we understand what we're looking at here? Mr. Kendall Coffey, former State Attorney General, welcome to the program.
Hey, how are you? Great to be joining you today.
Yeah. So the kinds of questions I have are, let's take the Cohen conviction, for instance, the guilty plea. How serious a conviction is that? Is it the kind of thing that is typically uncovered and is highly, is prosecuted aggressively? Or is this prosecutorial overreach, as some people are saying?
Well, how many presidents have really been accused of paying off their porn stars?
Well, I think that's a first on that. But go ahead. Let Mr. Coffey, go ahead.
Well, just to talk about the legal issues, it's a federal campaign finance violation. How commonly are these prosecuted as felonies? Not very often. This particular criminal theory or criminal position is pretty much the same one they used unsuccessfully against Senator John Edwards, and it was controversial at the time. This time, they have somebody who's pleading guilty to it, so it puts the Department of Justice in the position of not really having to test its theory of what constitutes a crime before a jury. Nevertheless, it's very significant because what we know is that the Department of Justice takes the position that the president was implicated in a federal crime constituting a felony. So whether or not you think it's an unusual kind of criminal charge, or some of us might even say it's a stretch by the Department of Justice, if it is a stretch, and that makes it pretty serious.
There you go.
Wait, I heard two things, that it's a stretch, but it's very serious.
Well, sure, it's a stretch because this is not a theory commonly used, and when they tried it on John Edwards, you remember he was somewhat analogous position. Yep. Personal money went to pay somebody personally, not for campaign ads, not for campaign billboards, but to avoid very, very embarrassing publicity. That's kind of the basic framework we have here, and it misfired. And some of the controversy was over the fact that when you think of campaign finance crimes, you're often thinking of campaign funds that are spent on a personal use,
right,
or even personal money that's spent to pay campaign consultants, direct use.
Right.
This is a little bit different than that. But why I say it's serious is this is the Department of Justice. They have decided that these charges are valid. They have accepted the plea and the statements in open court of Michael Cohen, meaning they believe it. So if that's the case, and if the Department of Justice has reached that conclusion, even using an aggressive interpretation of a statute, that obviously is a serious matter. And it also signals to me that as they look at other potential charges, including obstruction, they may take an aggressive view of those legal principles as well, because a lot of times things like obstruction are subjective.
Right.
But if they decide that telling a subordinate that, hope you would see your way clear to letting this guy off the hook, if they think that's obstruction of justice, then obviously they can make such a internal decision. And if they want to bring criminal charges on the campaign, rarely used campaign finance theory, then that tells me they're looking to go aggressively with respect to the president.
Now, out in the world, that would mean convincing a jury of these things, right? But now, isn't it the goal to make a recommendation for impeachable offenses? Would that be right?
I think that's right. Even though there's a lot of commentary back and forth, could you or could you not bring criminal charges against a sitting president? I think, we've all seen that the Department of Justice's position has traditionally been, no, you don't. That the structure, if somebody investigating the White House thinks that high crimes and misdemeanors have occurred, is a report to the United States Congress along the lines or following the methodologies of the Starr report, and we all recall that report and what followed from there.
And if, let's say, this is just sort of a curiosity question, let's say it's an unsuccessful impeachment effort, would they then go back and look at the criminal courts?
Well, somebody could, but I think most observers think they would be reluctant to do that, in part because the Department of Justice itself has said that's not something that's realistic, and in part because I think they know there would be a monumental constitutional challenge to any efforts to bring charges against a sitting president.
Now, it's curious to me that on the other side of this conversation, I guess we would call it, you've got other legal minds like an Alan Dershowitz saying there's nothing here. This is not a crime. This is not uncommon. This is, a rich man directing his attorney to do things for him to avoid embarrassment, and has nothing to do with campaign. I think he's saying it has nothing to do with campaign finance reform, violation. My question is sort of twofold. How can there be such? I guess they're just differing legal opinions, but it seems like it's such a vast difference. It's hard for me to reconcile that, number one. Or, number two, has he been adulterated in some way? What do you say?
Well, I don't think Professor Dershowitz, who I have the utmost respect for, is particularly disagreeing with what I'm saying. I think he would say, I can't speak for a man of his immense abilities, that this is a serious statement from the Department of Justice. He would, I think, is also saying that he's not sure it's really a crime the way they've teed it up, and we know that in the Edwards case it failed badly, and some would say embarrassingly for the Department of Justice. But the divergence of opinions is spectacular.
Well, that's the part. Yeah, that's the part I can't reconcile. I literally feel like people are looking at two different realities, and some of them are highly trained, extremely smart people.
Well, smarter than me, many of them, and a lot of them, I won't hesitate to say, disagree with me. But you think about the broad divide over everything that has to do with President Donald Trump. Maybe it's not so surprising that the legal analysts or alleged pundits or talking heads are also very, very divided. If we go back to the issue of obstruction, you remember that? Question of whether what he said to Comey and then subsequently filing. That's a big deal disagreement, too. We don't know what the Department of Justice thinks about that as a theory of obstruction. Normally, obstruction is charged when there's witness tampering, lying, falsified documents, specific cover-ups of evidence as opposed to giving somebody an endorsement or even, later on, replacing them. But there are plenty of very smart people that think that could be the crime of obstruction, even if a number of us don't. So I think on every point of this legally, just as everything political that comes up with the White House, the disagreements are remarkable. Very smart people.
And this is, of course, we're talking to Kendall Coffey, former state attorney general, about the legal situation in the White House. And I think it's this, our president knows how to walk this line and create this mess politically and legally. This is what he has done his whole career, I think.
I just don't know that it's helping him at all here.
I would agree with you on that. Well, Mr. Coffey, what do you think the Weisselberg thing would yield? What are they going after there?
Well, I think that could be vastly different outcomes. It could be old news in the sense that maybe that was an immunity that was granted so that he could provide vital evidence that would then set up Michael Cohen. Because certainly a company executive, somebody like a Weisselberg, is referred to in the criminal charges brought against Michael Cohen. Maybe that's all it was, in which case this would not be such a big deal, but maybe it's a huge big deal, because maybe there was a broad-ranging immunity, by which they examine a broad range of financial transactions. One of the things that keeps striking me is we just have no idea what the special counsel's office had. When I read the Manafort indictment that he just went to trial on, the indictments against two different groups of Russians, I was struck by the amount of investigation and detail, all of which they had kept very, very quiet. So the truth is that maybe this immunity is old news. Maybe it's the biggest news in a long time. We just don't know at this point.
It's so unsettling, all this. So I want you to help me with one personal issue, and my partner Lawrence Vaughn rolls her eyes when I keep saying this, but I'm going to find somebody who can relate to what I'm talking about. The word corruption keeps getting thrown around as it pertains to this White House, and I for some reason, for me, that's not the right word. Because corruption, I don't know, corrupted or adulterated, those words I think get closer for me. But I always think about corruption as meaning somebody looking for financial gain systematically, by, either subjugating or abusing or whatever their position. And I don't feel like that's what's happening here. Am I wrong? Is that the right word?
Well, I think you're both right. How does that sound like a safe answer?
Good attorney answer. Good attorney answer. But seriously, am I off base? Being uncomfortable with that word, or is there a better word to describe?
Most of the time, when I was at the U.S. Attorney's office, and I had the privilege of being the U.S. Attorney down here in the Southern District of Florida in the 90s, we thought of public corruption cases as some kind of bribery.
Yeah, that's exactly. I think of it as bribery.
Putting their hand in the cookie jar.
Yes, bribery.
We don't have that here, but I do think that the idea of public misconduct can certainly include, it's broad enough to include false statements, obstruction, things like that.
But public misconduct to me means it's a corrupted environment rather than a corruption. I don't know. It feels so specifically like bribery to me. And there may even be I'm wondering if there's a better word we could use than either of those.
Well, corruption is the traditional notion of corruption is something done by office holders, typically a bribe. The Michael Cohen stuff has nothing to do with President Trump's service in the White House.
Right.
Look, just like there are a lot of different views of obstruction, a lot of different views of what's trying to influence an election illegally, plenty of different views on corruption. When I was there, we thought of it as bribes, but that was a while ago, and a lot has changed in the last 20 years.
Let me ask you this. Has there been a time in American history when these issues, when our face has been pressed to the mirror on these issues so much? Is there another period of history we can look at and go, yes, these issues like corruption and obstruction had to be challenged, and our hand held to the fire to figure out what we really meant by these things, and another period of history? Can you think of anything?
Nothing like the intensity of this roller coaster, in part because, of course, now we have a much more dominating presence of a broad range of media. But also, it's a new blockbuster development every week or sometimes every day. So I can't recall a period like this in U.S. history.
I'm wondering, if somebody said Warren G. Harding's presidency, I'm thinking more Civil War era.
I'm thinking more Warren G. and Nate Dogg, the rap duo. I don't know.
Lauren's back, everybody. So 800-222-522 is our phone number. Please do give us a call. I really appreciate you, Mr. Coffey, spending some time with us, because I find the whole thing unsettling, mystifying, and I'm so much agnostic and in the middle the whole time here. I'm seeing both sides, and I can relate to both sides and what both sides are seeing, and I can't reconcile why there's these two vastly different versions of reality. I've never seen anything like it. And there's one guy at the center of it, so he must be creating it somehow.
Yeah. But there have been a lot of legal controversies that are intensely driving the news, but usually there's a rough consensus on what the law is. Yeah. Among the various pundits, talking heads, and media. Here, we're all over the map.
Oh, yeah, we're two different, living in two different realities, and that's very weird. All right, well, thank you so much. Do you have a website or a Twitter handle you'd like to recommend?
Just if anybody wants to read about strategies for getting in the court of public opinion, you might still be able to find my book, Spinning the Law, Trying Cases in the Court of Public Opinion, because about most of what we know these days is about the court of public opinion. What's really going to go on in the court of law, I got to say, Mueller's keeping pretty tight-lipped about the real
Sure
stuff.
I think the court of public opinion has really become the sort of public square where the mob aggregates, and people are, everything's based on that now. But thank you so much, sir.
Well, thanks for including me today.
You got it. Appreciate it. 800-222-5222 is the phone number. We'll get to calls. It's Lawrence Vaughn. It's Dr. Drew. It's Midday Live. Midday Live, Lawrence Vaughn, Dr. Drew, 800-222-5222. Let's get to these calls. Gregory, go right ahead.
Oh, good afternoon. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, great. You know, I've been listening. I find it fascinating. And while I was listening, the one thing I was going to answer your question, I have 2 points. The first is the reason that we're in this limbo, or there's two sides to stuff, is because people can't differentiate the difference between an opinion and a fact. So people think that their opinion has as much weight and merit as the fact. And
Gregory, let me go even one step further with you. I think people feel like their feelings are more valid than fact. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And secondly, what I was going to say is that in this issue with Cohen and is the fact that the law breaking, that could be significant. It could actually turn out to be something. But what's more important, I think, is to lose sight of the fact is that Donald Trump's been lying about his involvement with Michael Cohen for months.
Yeah.
He's a liar, and how can you be agnostic about that? How can anybody morally stand up and defend Donald Trump because he is a repeated and unrepentant liar?
Yeah,
and how can we tolerate? How do we tolerate that?
Do we have a choice?
I think the people. I'm trying to think of what.
I don't think we have a choice. I mean, he's been elected. And we kind of knew he was a liar before we elected him.
Absolutely. But I would think the constituency would say, politicians are all liars. He just does it more and better than the rest of them. And
well, that doesn't matter. When are we going to that? I don't think that's... When do you stand up and say, the guy is a liar and I don't support him as being the president?
At the next election.
The next election, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, can you do that now?
No.
I don't know what that accomplishes.
What are the pathways to do that now?
I don't know what that accomplishes. That's
it informs your listeners about how you feel about something. Do you support Donald Trump?
No. I'm agnostic. I'm staying agnostic.
How could you be agnostic?
Well, that's what I'm struggling with. How can I be agnostic toward his life? Because
that's what I struggle with.
Yeah, let me explain why. And this may be Lauren, of course, will give me adequate grief about this, so don't worry. But my feeling is that the sweep of history is so complex. We've had liars in there before. We've had people that made bad decisions and I would not have supported before. We've had maniacs in the office before who turned out to be great presidents. And I think, oh my God, I don't know. It doesn't look and feel right to me. But I'm not in a position to, I felt much better with somebody like Barack Obama. I liked him. But I don't know if that's better or worse. I don't know. And that's why I sit in the middle.
I think agnosticism is a great for spiritual values. So when it comes down to politics,
yeah, all right.
You can't look at a guy who's a liar and think this is good.
Oh, that was good. But thanks, Greg. I appreciate all that. It's Midday Live. And this is Midday Live, 800-222-5222. Lawrence Vaughn, Dr. Drew. Hang on there, guys. I will get to all of you. Jim, you say I'm on to something. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, okay, Dr. Drew. I agree with you. I'm also an independent, and Trump, he's disgusting in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
There's corruption, there's no doubt. But the economy's better, and I think we might be safer as far as the country's, not being attacked. And also, he seems like he wants to do something about illegal immigration. All these are good things. I don't like the guy either, but I mean, they're all corrupt, number one. And the other thing is, it's for Lauren, this one. Lauren, I was a recurring player on that show, Important Things with Dimitri Martin, but where the hell did he go? You were talking. Is he a friend of yours, or what's he doing now?
I just saw his comedy special on Netflix.
Oh, does he got one on Netflix?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
But listen, Jim, I want to reiterate, I was thinking about this issue that you bring up. And Teddy Roosevelt's my favorite president. And when I stand back and look at him as a person, I think, oh my God, the guy's a maniac. He's narcissistic, malignant narcissist. He's bipolar. He's what a mess. But man, he was a good leader. And I try, as I'm so confused by so much of what we're all dealing with here today, these days, I think to myself, God, if I were alive when President Lincoln was president, I bet I would have hated him. I would have admired his thinking, but I would have thought he's killing millions of people. What's he doing? What a maniac.
Dr. Drew, like as usual, for me, you make a lot of sense. I know some people don't think that way, but I do. I think you're right. That's all. That's all I got to say, really.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. But other people want to bash me. Let's see what we got here. This is Esme. Good to hear from you. What's going on, Esme?
Hey, how you guys doing? You live. What's up? So I recently heard on a science podcast this, I guess it would be a theory, I don't know. It was called Believing is Seeing, where your brain fills in what you expect to see, and you literally see what you expect rather than what is there.
That's true. That's how your brain works.
You know anything about
yes.
that?
Oh, yeah, that's how your brain works. And there's many different
I'm wondering how much that has to do with this, the different realities that people are seeing.
Lots of cognitive distortions going on these days. That's sort of my point. But yes, there's a lot of that kind of thing operating here. So in a weird way, what we're operating in is a world where psychological phenomenon are prevailing. That's why I'm drilling in on why the two films that people are watching, the two realities that people are living in, so we can sort of understand what each is motivated by and seeing. And it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. And I think the one thing I said today that I thought was kind of new for me is that whatever else you want to believe, there's one guy causing this whole thing at the middle of it. And so kind of look at his life and see what else he's caused like this and see how it plays out. And usually, if psychology prevails, he will repeat himself. Things will repeat themselves. So, Esme, how are your kids?
Fantastic. Growing too fast.
Fantastic.
Starting school with one of them.
All right. Good luck. Good to talk to you.
Enjoy the weather for me.
Thank you. 800-222-5222. And this is Heather. Heather wants to talk about feelings. Go ahead, Heather.
Hi, Dr. Drew. Hi, Lauren.
Hi there.
Hey, I'm from Long Island, too.
Yay!
Why don't you sound like Lauren does when she talks like a Long Islander?
I can talk like a Long Island,
We can talk Long Islands. We choose not to.
So, first of all, I love listening to you because you're more even-keeled than most people on the radio, and I appreciate that because there's a lot of leaning to the left and a lot of leaning to the right, and it's really people picking teams.
Which is, by the way, picking tribes and then looking to the tribe for their sense of reality.
Yeah. And you have women, it drives me crazy. As a woman, seeing women completely losing their minds, literally making circles and flipping up their vaginas for the world to see, as a way of, what are they, protesting Donald Trump? I mean, what's happening?
No.
Oh, the hats, you mean?
No, literally women. There's photos of women in I don't want to go too off the rails here, but it's actually women are protesting in that regard.
Like they're withholding from their partners or something, that kind of thing?
No. There's women protesting in America.
Be kind.
I don't understand it, honestly. Like, my day is not ruined because Donald Trump is the president. It wasn't ruined when President Obama was president. I don't understand what people think is going to happen, but I do agree with you. I think it's tribalism. I think you want your team to win. And what has Donald Trump done to women? Honestly, not on a personal, please, Lauren, not on a personal, but I mean in general. What policies is he promoting that's hurting women?
Lauren?
Well, he's appointing conservative judges to the Supreme Court, and there is the fear he's going to reverse Roe v. Wade.
800-222-5222. Heather, appreciate your comment. It's Midday Live. It is Midday Live. Lawrence Vaughn, Dr. Drew. Our number is 800-222-5222. Go ahead there, Carl.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Dr. Drew and Lauren. Hey, listen, I'll tell you what. There is a way to solve this where we can have politicians that are not corrupt and screwed up. They need to go through a federal tax audit and pass it. If they did that with everybody from the top down and they pass, then they can be holding the special position of being a public servant.
It's kind of an interesting.
Forget it.
It's a good point.
It's an interesting idea because a lot of the stuff that we're spinning about today would have
come out.
Would have picked up.
That's right.
It seems to me. But then again,
that's what I think too.
I just think generally our elected officials should be subjected to all the things we're all subjected to. And just I don't want to say the sum total, but the average person gets audited. The average person, has the concerns that the politicians are insulated from, and they should not be. I agree with you, Carl. All right, thanks for that, Carl. Appreciate it. 800-222-5222 is our phone number. I was drilling into the term corruption, whether that's appropriate to describe what's going on in the White House, or whether it's more something a little different, adulterated. I don't know. Again, I'm still looking for that right word. And also the legal issues, why two different interpretations are so vastly different by well-trained, well-meaning people looking at, say, the Cohen, the Manafort situation and interpreting things so vastly differently. Alice, go ahead.
Oh, hi, Drew and Lauren.
Hey.
I just wanted to tell you that in 8th grade, I was sent to the principal's office for saying yes, ma'am, and no, sir. So
what?
Why?
We moved from Houston, Texas to Minnesota. And in Texas, you're required to say yes, ma'am, and no, sir. And then we moved to Minnesota, which is where I got sent to the principal's office. So I'm imagining that this teacher is not from North Carolina.
Oh.
No, I think the event where the young man had to be disciplined was in North Carolina, but I could be wrong.
Well, help me understand in your situation what motivated them to do that to you.
They thought I was being a smart aleck, and
goodness.
I asked to call my mother, who doesn't live far from the school, and she came down and had to explain it to them. But, I was about to get in a lot of trouble because...
For being polite and showing respect.
Yes, but in Minnesota, I was considered a smart aleck.
It's a habit. How did you break yourself of that habit?
It scared me enough to stop.
So just that one episode. That is just extraordinary to me.
Then did you just start calling them like dude?
No, dude was not a word in the 80s, at least in Minnesota. So yes and no, just didn't finish it with what was required in Texas, which was a ma'am or a sir.
Wow.
This is 8th grade. Wow.
It was 8th grade. And never forgot it.
I would bet not. Let me just ask, just for my own curiosity, did you have were you a problem to the teacher in any other way? You know what I mean? Were you someone that was talking up a little bit in class or anything of that sort?
A smart aleck?
Were you otherwise a smart aleck?
No,
yeah.
I had literally just moved there. So it was in the first month of attending school there. I had no friends. I was completely brand new. Had a Southern accent. He said the whole thing, and dressed up for school, where in Texas you dress up for school, and in Minnesota you wear loafers and khakis and blue jeans. And at my public school in Texas, you were not allowed to wear jeans. So this was all new to me. So I couldn't cause any problems because I didn't know anybody.
Did it adulterate your experience of that school, or were you able just to adjust and move on?
Oh, no. I went home and I got out the Yellow Pages, back when there were phone books, and I looked up schools, and the very first school listed on there, I called the admissions director and said that I wanted to go to a different school.
Wow.
And he was so amused by the fact that I opened up the phone book and looked for a school. And, I attended private school in downtown Minneapolis after that.
Wow.
So you changed schools. Wow. Good for you. It was almost a weird kind of overcoming adversity story in there. But okay, Alice, thanks so much for that story. We appreciate it.
Thank you,
You're welcome. Bye.
800-222-5222 is our phone number. We are talking about the legal mess circling around the White House. If you'd like to call and discuss with us, 800-222-5222. It's Lawrence Vaughn. It's Dr. Drew. It is Midday Live. Still trying to pull some of your calls together at 800-222-5222. Let's Stories like this, Lauren, infuriate me. The headline is, a crippled 76-year-old is rotting in prison for decades on an old weed charge.
Oh, God.
Can't we get sane about this? We have overcrowding issues. This drug is legal.
We're letting violent criminals out. Why can't we let one-time weed?
Somebody who's carrying a couple blocks of a couple bricks of weed. Who cares? Or they had a bunch of plants in their house. Come on. This is so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous.
So, I don't know. Again, I always have these grave concerns about our laws around drugs and alcohol.
Well, yeah.
You know, we were talking with the Orange County supervisor earlier, which is that there are movements afoot to try to legalize all drugs. Yeah, that's out there. Go ahead.
When you talk about victimless crime, as he was talking about earlier, when it comes to drug use, he said that, you know, if you're only hurting yourself and you're not hurting anyone else, then it should be legal, as long as you're not like robbing someone to get your own drugs. But it's not a victimless crime, because you know better than anyone all of the families that suffer from drug addicts.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You should hold people accountable for the behaviors associated with the using. Aggressively hold them, and for not stopping, right? If you have trouble, you have a condition where it makes you use too much and you can't stop, do something about that and create very aggressive consequences for those behaviors. Not so much consequences for the just harboring of the drugs or using of the drugs, because that's going to go on anyway. Mm-hmm. Our number again is 800-222-5222. We've been talking today about the situation in the White House with Manafort and Cohen, and soon to be the CFO of the Trump organization, maybe granted immunity, maybe knowing some information. We'll find out what he is telling the special prosecutor. And what has been preoccupying me, and I suspect will continue to preoccupy me, is the fact that I'm hearing such vastly different interpretations of the same facts, of the same phenomenon. I wouldn't call them facts, but phenomenon. We have, for instance,
they're facts.
The fact is Cohen pleaded guilty to,
and Manafort was found guilty.
Well, but what
you're saying is you have Alan Dershowitz on one side saying it's not a big deal.
Right.
All these presidents do election fraud.
Right. And, not that so much. That's, hey, these rich men cover up they have attorneys and they cover things up for them, and that's legal, and that's why they have these attorneys to guide them through the legal aspects of this. And that just because you directed him to do that just has nothing to do with anything. And other people saying it's a felony, it's as bad a felony as if, they was directing him to harm somebody.
A
hitman. And we talked to an attorney earlier who was saying that the degree to which they were prosecuting this issue, which is campaign finance, was aggressive. So there was an interpretation going on of the campaign finance law that it needed to be more aggressively pursued, more so than it had in the past. Mm-hmm. They tried it once with John Edwards. It failed, but they feel like that should be aggressively pursued. Now, that's an interpretation. That's not facts. That's an interpretation.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this second Manafort trial that's set to begin in just about a week. That's the one
more about
that brings all the red meat. Yeah, that's the obstruction of justice.
The obstruction.
This was just a salad appetizer.
Yeah, so a lot more to go yet, and we'll be following it. We want you to participate with us at 800-222-5222. We appreciate you listening. Please tell a friend. We appreciate building this little community, having this show. We appreciate you calling and participating. This has been Midday Live.